Right, now we get down to business. Alright, so we saw in the Madrega of Kesser, which is the Inen of Rotzei, two Inyonim of Moti V'Le Moti were not Madregas Mufalokim or Hafokim. To put it more correctly, they were not only not Hafokim, but they weren't even Mufalokim, they weren't the Emes, different Madregas. And the final maskana in that was that the bittul in the return, in the going back in the Leimati, was not in a form of complete loss of Metzias, but just a return to the previous Metzias. So it was really Nimtza both in the Mati and in the Leimati. So therefore we said they're not Madregas of Derek, we found in the Rotzei V'Shoiv of Metzias and Ha'edera Metzias. But those are two inyonim kemuvan, Amishafufim Zeh Mizeh. And on that basis, we reach a conclusion that we can't really talk about a hefsek or a pause or shinui, which leads to the concept of zman. And therefore, we reach the idea of Yom Shekulei Oroch, that afilu mitzad inen of rotzin, we have to say that it's l'mayla minin hazman, but in the Ein Seif Mamish, then we have to say that it's Mamish Bli Gvul, and therefore Ein Shayhin in Hazman. That's the lotion that occurs in our sages, Yom Shekulei Oruch, that's going to get the Osid, that will be after Mashiach will come. And we saw that that was right from the very beginning. It's already Yom Shekulei Oruch, whereas time is measured and limited, and some of it keeps going longer and longer towards the Seif. Then we see how long it is. Of something which is beyond the time, is that right from the very beginning, it's already Adosh Kulei Oroch. And on the contrary, beginning and end really are equal. That's what we saw that in Blikvu B'Emes, it's not shy really the two concepts of Rosh V'Sok. Something which is Blikvu may begin the Rotzen Hashem, because it may not have been up to that point. The Eibus's Rotzen may want to reveal that at any given point. But once he does, then it has no end. So that means that even at the moment he reveals it, it really has no end. It's not shy to talk about waiting for it to finish, because from the moment that he reveals it, it's just going to it's going to continue b'li shum inin shel zman. So therefore, the Indian of, even though it may have a beginning, the Rosh and the Sof are equal mitzad the Indian of Blikvu. And that's what we quoted the Alter Rebbe in Perek Memches in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe says that Gabi Blikvu, then mispar, no matter how great you go in mispar, if you take number, you can quote the biggest number, millions, whatever you want to quote. But Gabi something that's believable, something that's believe mispar, then it has no error. So that's the concept here. Something that has no gvul in time can't be described as a long time. It can't be described as waiting until we'll see how long it goes before. But right from the moment it begins, it's already believable, and therefore it's not shy, not beginning and not end. And therefore we saw that's beyond the whole Indian of these chalchas of Zman. So now we go on. V'hine p'chidas harotzon hanal agam de'enu shaya v'oi p'chidas hazman v'kol mochim harihu shoyresh u'moker v'p'chidas hazman. In other words, that the Rotzain, as always, is like a middle point. If we take the simplicity of the Ein Seif, how he's beyond the Inyan of the Rotzen, then he's completely bligvul and completely beyond Zman. Once we get down after the Rotzen and the Hemshech of the Gila Rotzen, then we get the inner Rotzen Vashoy, because we get down into Ha'oris, which become Oyer. And therefore we find Rotzen Vashoy. The Rotzen is a midpoint. Like we see always by the mensch, like we described already several times, that the Rotzen is the koyach in the mensch to take the pshitas of his neshama, the pshitas of his nefesh, and express it in a specific world. In other words, that he relates to certain things by way of derivation of himself, because the Rotzen, as it were, arouses a interest on his part that he be nimshach to these and these inyanim. And of course, we're going to see in a minute that's not really shayat either. In other words, the emes concept of Rotz Ein per se, they're not really shayat by the Eibishter, because you only want something which in some way is going to feed you back. It's going to, in some way, reward you or feed you for having gone down from your state of withdrawal. By Davis, that's not shayat to say. By a human, it is shayat to say that, and on the contrary, always retainees are a medium to which he goes from his complete withdrawal into an interest into the world around him. That's the Indian of Rotzen. So the same Lamaila in a borrowed way, but that which links the Eibishter, how he's absolutely Shita, so he'd say, and the Indian of the Shtaushel, so the Eilemas, that's the Rotzen. So therefore the Rotzen is beyond time, but it's a mocker of time. It's a point where time is not measurable, and it's not shaykh, the union of human time, but it is a giving of a possibility that time can arise, and that's what we call a makor. And therefore in the Rotzen Gufa we have two madregas of what's called arich atik. It's in the higher union of the Rotzen house, mamish dovuk, the Tatlis in the Ein Sof, that's not even shaykh this union of being a mokeh, it's not even shayat mokeh v'loy mokeh. But in the lower levels of Rotzen, which have already been nimshach, even though they've only been nimshach kitzas, as we saw the whole time, but there's already been a gilui of the Rotzen towards the concept of Yishavas Ha'ilamas. Therefore, in that madrega where it's gone out, at least in the form of moti, that's where it's shayat a mokeh for the union of time, even though time itself is not measurable or shy at that point. So that's what we see then here also, that Keser and Rotzen are like a midpoint, they're like a mamutza between the absolute simplicity of the Ein Sof and the Ishtaushelus of the Eilemas, which automatically also implies the beginning of time. Ve'enu shay po yishchal zaman, is hine b'chinas ha-Rotzen, agam de'enu shay po b'chinas ha-zaman, Komochim Hari Hu Sheirish Umoker Bechinas Azman. Dehine Bechinas Harotzain, Hu Gam Kein Bechinas Oyer V'ziv Lavod. Shu Bechinas Reishis Am Shofer. Aber Hu Bechinas Ziv, Olei Bechinas Ha'atzmus. Now, we've been stressing the whole time that we're talking about not a Gilui B'derech HaMshocha, not a Gilui B'derech Hamshachas Oyer, elo what we call Hatoyas Eter. So we seem to avoid calling it Oyer the whole time. And on the contrary, with that we earn all sorts of advantages in our argument that it's not Oyer. It's a kilo of the Eter itself. So now that he's, as it were, correcting himself slightly, and he says, no, that Indian of the Rotzen is, yes, Oyer V'ziv, but it's the Reishis Amshoch. And then we come back to something that we repeated many times. But by the way, is this thing being done for me? In other words, somebody's now going to take it over after. I mean, he's left this fellow. So, can we, sure.
I'll do it until somebody takes over.
He declared his resignation today. So, he's left. I mean, not only from this, but from the whole issue. And it just wasn't chat to argue about it, it was chat to discuss it. I assume somebody will look out for it.
I can take care of it.
We've already made the elections and we've already decided who they are. So, it was very quick elections, but there we are. And we take it that both the electors and the elected are satisfied. It's, so, says the. So, I remember when I was in the army, they would all of a sudden walk up sometimes and say, "Yeah, we're calling for volunteers, you, and you." I remember once I spent a whole Shabbos in one of the bases out there, and it was an amazing thing. You sort of unbelievable. I was across the front of the curve and all. I met a guy. Had I not stayed there, I don't think I would have ever met him in the normal way. And he had this most amazing story. And due to my experience, I was able to help him. Had he not met me, I don't know how he would have found anybody in that whole area of the army to help him. So then I realized, well, I had to stay behind. But for me, it was very difficult. I didn't have my food. I didn't eat the food. So I had a whole Shabbos there. I didn't have not my candles, not my food. I had to sort of try and find some way of finding an answer with this whole situation. To my great chagrin, of course, at that particular moment. And it all happened that way. The guy came along and said, "Yeah, we need volunteers to stay here for Shabbos." And he just sort of blindly pointed, and then he pointed at me. Yeah, so one of the guys said, "We don't do that to him. He doesn't, he has to have food." So the guy just said, "We've already decided. Thank you, and you might store." That was it. So I spent Shabbos there. So that was we chose volunteers, and we got them. So, the whole time we've spoken that we're in the Shoresh of the Gilui of Zayda Ishtalshalas. We've said that we're in the Rashis of Yom Shach. And so since we're in the Rashis of Yom Shach, it's still so close to the Etzem that it hasn't really gone out from the Etzem. It hasn't really been misrachted. You remember we kept using that expression also, Yisrachik. Once the Yor goes, as it were, with further development of its Amshocha, then it becomes Misrachik. But we used the expression the whole time that avoided the concept of the Oyer per se. So now comes on to it, and he said that Watson is also Gam Kain Oyer Ziv Ela. What is the difference? It's the beginning of the Amshocha. And this is what we kept pointing out, that the marshal for that is this concept of Oyer, how it's kolol inside the Shemesh, but that's the racist Amshocha of all Oyer from the Shemesh. And then the Alter Rebbe said in Perek Gimel, Shara that you don't call it Oyer, you call it the Shemesh, because of its closeness and bittul b'teich HaShemesh. Therefore, this is Oyer V'ziv B'yemes, but it's so close to the beginning of its whole Amshocha that it's still called Al Shem HaEtzem, and it's not called Al Shem any distance from the Etzem. But ultimately, it can't be mamish the Etzem. It must also be some form of Oyer V'ziv. V'lo kach, Shayet Poyal Chaponim Chitsis Pashtas, a derivation forth, and a Hederis Pashtas, a return back in. Shehu Inyan Amshocha, the Ishkalal, that's the idea of going out somewhat and then immediately being re-involved and absorbed into the market. Ishkalalut. Agam Kameshin is Boli, or Sha'en Prince Mahus Liatzmai, Kihimu Prince Hatoyas Atzmai. We've been learning the whole time that it's not a Ha'ora and it's Hatoyas Atzmai. So he said, no, even according to what we said before, that it's not a mahus le'atzmi, it's not something that's going out in the form of Amshocha. Ella, it's only a leaning of the etem. How then can we call it over? See, what are we, how are we almost appearing to dance on to chasnas? Harizeh gam kein, Masha Atzmas Kaviyohu Reitze Barotzei. Here's a very amazing question. Shakoidem Sha'ola Beritzvein. Before it occurred to the Eibishter's will. Eino shaya be'atzmus lo'imasharaita. Before the Eibishter revealed that he wants, it's not shaya to say, God forbid, that he wants. Can't say about the atzmus that he wants. Imkein, masharaita be'koyach harotzim. What he does reveal a koyach harotzim, and through that, kaviyachol, he wants. He said, you can't, that can't be mamish, the atzmus. Ochem, finds a maya drega zua, gam sheinu shabin, his towers, patches, mikol mogim shabai motiv aloi, mispashid veinamid, shuhu gam kein in mispashtus, viskala. So, here we made up with a very amazing statement that the atzmus is lamayla mi'a rotzain, and koyach harotzin, which is the gilad and the rotzin, that's not the atzmus mamish. Why? Because he wants to want. He wants to want. And that takes me back to, I remember one Shabbos morning I met Noam Goldschmidt, although I've mentioned him on certain occasions in these classes. He was a very amazing, tremendously gifted, amazing person. I met him on Shabbos morning, we had a little chat, and I asked him that question. I said, what's the story of Rotzen, Lamayla? How do we get around the concept of Rotzen? Because the Eibishter can't want. If the Eibishter wants, then that means he's after something. As if he's after something, how does that fit in with the Eibishter? She's how do you call it? Omni everything. I've forgotten my omnis. But he's everything. Huh?
But if you say that he's after everything and he doesn't need anything, you're also eliminating it. But he can't.
He's omni, meaning, so you Americans don't know any English. It doesn't help to talk English, you guys. It's not a simple expression. It means that he's beyond all possible concepts of needing it.
So he's limited.
Yeah. Showing any necessity to anything. Because what's in one way or another implies either need or necessity. A lot of things that we want because they're essential, they're requirements of ours. Therefore we want them. So either they can be things that you want more, as you might say, bishmor, because you want them, but you need them, or you would like them, they would somehow or another perfect you, or you need them purely mitzad need in the real sense.
Okay. We just said it's because he has a title for the ransom. It's not that he needs it.
Good. So what does it mean he has time?
He wanted it.
So what does it mean the Eibishter has time? I mean, it's the same basic question. I mean, time means you have pleasure. You experience something in a positive way. It somehow adds to you. That's why it's called tanu, because it's adding to you. It's a positive influence on you, or whatever expressions you will use. Well, that's what makes it into oine. Well, that's not Shach L'Mayla. That's Shach L'Mayla B'chlal. So therefore, I asked him that question, and he said, no. He said, Dave, it doesn't. He said to me in Yiddish, will nicht. He said, will. He said, so he doesn't want. He wants to want. In other words, it's in fact that the Eibishter wants, but that itself is a decision of Rotzen on his part. He doesn't really want, but he wants to want. So that will just go back a step. Why does he want to want? If you say will velm, then you will move to back a stage which go back in a way to where you started. So then we have to say that what we mean by saying that the Eibishter roitzeh b'haratzon, then we mean that the Eibishter wants that there should be a will. So when we say he wants that there should be a will, we don't mean those two words in the exact same way. In other words, what we mean by saying he wants a will, the first wants means that he doesn't have to will. That's what it means. Something that you don't have to do can also be described as you're wanting to do it. And that's a much more deeper idea of wanting, in the sense it's something that you decide, or I would say you choose. And that can always also call that you wanted it, but you don't really want it in the way of will. It was just a decision or a choice that you made. And therefore, what Rav Nachman was saying, will wel, which desire, which can also be called wanting. Need that. So we know that to do it. That's why the question is,
We're saying that Hashem had no necessity. It's a luxury that the creation. It's not like
it's a choice. It's a choice. He chose it. And choice, by nature, is absolutely nothing special. By us, choice in many cases also because we have facts of choice. He has no fact. Right? Can he choose? That's what the Rebbe said. We have no way we know what. In a way that it's beyond all concept of what we take. We don't really, I've never really, maybe even after all the different kids on we won't really know that one.
the reason why.
Why did all the kids, no? Because that's what they'll have to have. I just can't catch. You can't. That's why the elder is very happy to bring. There are different changes in the memory, and it results in different places, which by reasons for the creation. But elder is a reason for the creation, for example. Well, he brings the expression, he's stubborn. That's also not a measure. Well, there are also other measures, he may feel it. In levels, there is a expression, he's stubborn. The elder, for example, will put he picks out that. So you've decided this will be every so you want to go or something. Good. Is it follows that he didn't wanting to take in the organisms will means that we want our aim at something. The ape should need that in order to figure out this whole system we call the question of the world. If the needs of what he wants, they should each have a will, and we should have to relate to his will, we should have to be positive to it, we should have to do what he wants to it. That's how the beetle, the sexual, that's what because we in the what you might call the whole system. There should be such a thing. It's called will, but it's also it's a willing act of the need to be a will. He has a will. He chose to be a will. What Wade said, you have to have lots. Don't mean that he wanted. Can we just move up into her? We just take a question if you step higher. What we mean by what Wade said, there was a willing thing on his part. He's not wise, he's not forced. He was chose, or he allowed that there be a thing called his actions
Atzmus, he doesn't have authority. It's not that it's he allowed that to appear, I think, for that's what the word breach. But it's Jewish expressions. The level of song means the only once we got race means how he allowed that to occur. As we call that process, I want to call it race. We want to indicate that it's not in any way forthwalk. So we choose great but indeed that's what we mean by choice. So the thing, not a legal thing. That's what the actually is. He says to be build up. He wants to, but not that he wants it, he does it want. He allowed to be the police thing.
So when you say that, then Atzmus is not trying to say any choice or communication.
I know, it was your choice.
I'm saying there's no indication that he needs anything. So he doesn't need anything, he's limited because he can't need anything either.
Well, I don't think so. I think if you think carefully about it, that's not the case. Right? He doesn't need anything. It's always a limitation. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What even is, that's just not clear. The whole concept doesn't need anything. What that means is it doesn't need, but maybe everybody that does, what would you say that he'd be on borders? It doesn't. Before the gap, right? There is only one. That's a move. Obligatory thing. That's why you use the word race. Anyway, he's raised the virus. Shakir, all of it, he made before it might. He's will. That's what he did. There's a kilo of the song. In fact, Atzmus was your right. In Atzmus himself, he can't say that he won. Cholila. Ve'im came, Masha Reitze, the Koyach Ratzon. In other words, a thing that can be defined already as the power of will. It's not him. If there's already been a revelation, what we call will, then that's not him. It may be very close to him, it hasn't gone away from him far. Etc. It's Hatuya, it's not Mamish Hamshocha. All those in Yana, it's still, as it were, close to Hashem. But he said it's not mamishim. Therefore, that's what we keep saying. On the one hand, it's kolev, it's ktaz. We said it's hatoya sa'etzem. All those in Yana. On the other hand, it is a form of a passage forth from the Eibishter, which can allow it to be called Erva V'ziv. Now, why do we call it Erva V'ziv? Because something which is Erva V'ziv has no error. It has no error to the Atzma. Therefore, you might say, well, after he's already got a rotzen, and maybe he's pleased that he has a rotzen. But we say, no, the rotzen is Erva V'ziv, it really has no. Just like all other inyonim have no error, that also has no error. Amamela, etc. Harise ein ze b'china ze v'lochem, b'china madrege zu, hagam she'enu shayapot, stalfus v'spashtet, v'srotze v'shoy. He said it's not shayat, the union of derivation and return back in the form of rotze v'shoy. We call mokim shayapot, the b'chinas moti v'loi, moti mispashet v'einu mispashet. Why? Because Ugamkein in an Ishpashta. It's also a going out from him. It's not really him, Mom. And we keep coming back to the concept of Uya, which is so cold in the Atzmus that it's really Nikra al Shmoy. But that's the end of the Uya, cold B'tech Hashemet. The same idea here. It's gone out from the Shemet. It's already oil, but it's Uya inside the Shemet. It's Nikra al Shema Hashemet. But it really is a form of a Hamshoch. But it's what we call Moti V'loi. V'loi Moti. But it's Cholila to say that is Mamish the Atzmus. The Atzmus is completely and utterly Muhtam is Legam. Now, similar to this concept, we find other Inyanim very similar to this, which are put down in So, for example, we say that we have the power, what's called Rishus Delatata. We have the power to beg and to arouse from Lamata, and the Eibishter gives forth answers, and where the Eibishter reacts to these requests on our part and all these things. So the Chur also indicates some sort of an involvement, like a form of alteration within him. At one point, yes, now they're praying to me, but before that I maybe didn't know that way, but now I've heard all their prayers. All these sort of nuances that we say. That you wish somebody's going to pray on the Kingdom Sekadishim, you say to him in Yiddish and all in the Polish Yiddish, they say he's all talking gehat gepoilt alles gitters. That you should have, you should come away having spoiled everything good, made a good pool out of Mila in the best possible way. Try to make a pool out of it. There was the queue. He's waiting for you, to pray so good. Lord, now I'm afraid I do not. I mean, what all these things shine in Atmas Haiti? Therefore, brought down the very first statement in the actual text of the Zohar Kodesh. The very first statement is Vareish Hurmanasa Damalka Gorif Gorifu Vatihiru Ilah. We've quoted this before. Now, without going into the whole Nakuda, the whole Arichas rather, as the Reish Hurmanasa, the word Hurmanasa in Aramic means Rishus. In the Reish, in what you might call the head of the Rishus, in the Eibishter K'moshe Hu, how he's like the word beyond everything, he's the head. Everything there is Rishus. It's only permission. It's not obliged. It's all that he gives it permission that it should be that way. That's the expression of the woman. And it said, Reish woman is in the mouth of Golivu. He literally allowed it to be engraved, certain things in the simplicity of his life. It was engraved in the simplicity of it. What does all that mean? So it's points out that the Eibishter made Kaviyoho an agreement that he doesn't really need to make. He's not obliged to do that. But he allows there to be, mitzad his shitas, his omnipotence, he allows that it should be possible to ask him and get an answer, even though it's not really shy. But he allows himself to come down in such a way, and that's in the process. That he has a will, as it were, and therefore you can talk to his will and fulfill it better and get a more recognition from him mitzad that. But that's all an agreement. It's a permission that he gives. It's not something that he has to have. He has to be a part of.
So we have to say that we're davening, it's impossible to daven to the Asmos itself.
Yeah. Well, in a way, you see, that's where it becomes very interesting. Because there are certain places in this where, of course, if we do daven to the Asmos, well, complaining, we do have some sort of shyness to the Asmos. So, the only thing we can say there is that there's another marshal for a lot of the things which occur, and that in some ways complicates the situation, but in some ways maybe simplifies it. And that's the whole idea that Yidden are called children of the Abraham. These are psukim in the Torah. Bonim Atem Hashem Elokeinu. So Ben, he has a most amazing connection with the Father, in the sense that he comes from the Atzmus of the Father in a very, very high way. So that's once again, it's brought down that we don't have any idea how the Eibishter allowed Neshamas to come about. How did he do that? Because he allowed them to come about in a way that they have a very, very remarkable kesher with him, even though it's not shy to say such a thing. Really, it's not the pshit of the Atzmus, it's not shy. Cholila, that's saying he's got children, right? It's shy, as I'm in or said he's got the shamans that have gone off from him. And yet, nonetheless, that's what we say. The Alter Rebbe says that the neshama is a chelik well, that's a posik. The word mamish, that's not in here. Chelik elakar mimal, that's also in Iyov. That's a big Indian Order Torah, because the Pasuk in Iyov is not talking about the Shabbos or anything. It's quite a simple Pasuk. And the Alter Rebbe took that Pasuk and he made this amazing nuance. Anyway, whatever, he says that the Neshamas are Chelekamim, Ma'il, and then he says Mamish. Whatever the word Mamish adds to it. But that's also a big beer. What does the word Mamish add to it? Well, anyway, if we say Mamish, we get very weird about it, and we say that we are in a way, the Neshamas are like a portion of you. There's an old expression in the old English, an expression, a chip off the old block. You ever heard about it? I don't know if these Americans, they don't hear this type of English. But a chip off the old block. That's a very, very amazing expression, by the way. That's exactly what he said about the Nisham. That it's also used a word in one of Medrash Chazal, the Chatzubeis, Mitachas Kisya HaKohen, and the word Lachtzei means to chop. Make chips. So the expression chip off the old block is really not very far. The Hamdil come over of what's written in Medrash Chazal. Going to get to the Nisham. Anyway, whatever. Mitzat that, then we're able to sort of reach the answers even more than this Rotzen in you. Because in the Rotzen we say he chose the Rabbi. Remember, there's like him and then there's the Rotzen. But when you get to the Neshamas, it gets very sort of confusing. We're like a piece of him. So how does it what's all about? Ad Krikach. There's a famous kashi at the Rebbe say, we should be able to do everything the Eibush does. We should be able to create worlds, we'll chip off the old block. There's and the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, the famous Igeros HaKodesh, number 20, Rosh Hashanah's Kesser, in Igeros HaKodesh, and the Alter Rebbe writes that whole thing. Even though the Neshamas are Mamish Miko Moke, and then he writes a few Rishonos, which obviously his point is that nonetheless they're not Mamish with all the things that the Eibush want to give them, because they come into his house a little bit, they come to, and he sort of he nuances it that you shouldn't run away too much from that idea that they're also. It means that we're going to see here in a minute there's a difference between the way the Eibush made the whole world, everything else, even morality and all things for the whole world, for nations, and else for the world. And then there's a different mitzvahs. The mitzvahs he only gave to you. The mitzvahs, they go beyond this whole thing. Completely beyond. So the same, the Eibush, when you say he wanted, there should be a will, and all these kind of, that's all for the whole world. That's like for the pigs, It's like Sukkot, we have 7 days of Sukkot, we offer up all these korbanos, that's for the whole world, everybody's involved. It comes on Shemini and says, this name says, wait a minute, where's my little Yidle daughter, who is there? I just want him now, I just want to be with him, when I'm finished with the whole business, I want to spend a little bit of time with my Yidle. You got the idea? There's also a thing going on now, there's some sort of special business here. Yeah, third. There's a whole uniform will and all these things, and then it's in. Now, I would say to you, in some ways, that the whole inyan of the Rebbe, the whole unbelievable gilu of the Rebbe in the world, is to tell the world what Yid done, and to show Yid what Yid do. That's Yid and Mashiach. Mashiach will show Yid what they really are. When you look about it, that's what the Rebbe is all about. That's what the dollars. It's too far. If you give my Yid $1, they said another Yid, thousands and thousands. Because Yid, they're the whole in. But sometimes they went past the $1 also. A policeman that wasn't a Yid, also. You got a nice, he was a goy, but he got a good reception. Yes, there's the way everything is meant for the whole world, and then there's a way it's meant special to that's in the top. And therefore we don't find, except in certain Sforim that they're very frum, they say the Goyim should also daven. Well, how much they're supposed to daven? They should say Moediani, and but the Rebbe backed some of it. The Rebbe came out in favor of saying that Goyim should say something during the day to recognize Hashem, to recognize His rulership of the world. That's a good job. Of a praying mamish, the way we pray, that's all you. That's the children going back to their fathers.
A son to a father, a son doesn't serve his father. The Israel doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't serve his father. He does.
They have a connection with
He does. He does serve his father. It's on the contrary. The person who serves his father the best of all is the son.
Is he serving him, or does he have
looks out for his
kesher,
father,
which
he
is-
brings him everything, makes sure he's got everything he needs, worries about him, cares about him, brings him everything. Well, that's deep on the contrary. The emes service is from the son.
So why do we daven?
Serving, that was serving. To a certain extent, the serving has also got to do with us. There are other midrashim that say that we daven in order to correct ourselves. But ain't davar yechem b'dei pshutai that we daven to Him. Alright?
So in a way, do we have to say that Ratzah B'Shoiv is more of a Chetzonis thing to a Jew? It's really not the Pneumius of a Jew?
No. Therefore, Ratzah B'Shoiv is good. It's part of the Aveda, but it's not the ultimate. The ultimate Aveda is to go beyond Ratzah B'Shoiv. Therefore, what the Eivshter really wants was this mitzvah. Well, I mean, ultimately speaking, the ultimate tafsir is about it. That's what we're going to learn here in a minute. Mitzvahs are beyond even motiv lema. Their mitzvahs are beyond everything. Well, so Ein Lachanami, Ratzah B'Shoiv is only like a inward pneumis that adds what you might call icing to the cake. You know, it makes the whole spirituality of a Jewish, awareness. Ratzah B'Shoiv. But ultimately, it's not beyond Ratzah B'Shoiv. I mean, that's a very amazing point, and the tricky thing is that sometimes these points in citizens are so essential. I mentioned relatively calmly, that I could have made a whole big populist mention of this thing, and he doesn't. He just writes it. Therefore, he says, "Reitzer ba'arotzin, Sfoidim she'olah b'rotzin en shabbat, reitzer im kein man reitzer ba'arotzin, ein ze b'chin ratzin, Allah im b'chin ratzin zov, en shabbat in thousands of pastors, like my Ratzah B'Shoiv. Nonetheless, it does have his pastors for his colorless, because it is, after all, Ratzin per se is mamish agilui mimah. ומשום זה, הרי הוא מוקר על כל פנים לבחינת Ratzah B'Shoiv שבו חויב. And therefore, even though Moti v'lei Moti l'sha'atzmei is not Ratzah B'Shoiv, but it is a certain giving of a source that there will eventually be ein in a Ratzah B'Shoiv. Shezeu shemisava al yedei ha'moti v'lei Moti sheba mokoyer, in the mokia of the earth. Because now I'm making a certain, what you might call kesher pnimi between Moti and Ratzah B'Shoiv. They're soft, they're both oyer received. They're not mamish atzim. Well, that is a in oyer gufa, that it's so cold in the mocker still that it's not really cold there. But ultimately, he said it really is. And therefore, like our Moshe with the Yerusha B'Tei Hashem, and therefore he says it really is shayich in that a movement, and that movement of literally back and forth leads eventually to Ratzah B'Shoiv, what that is the Moki's man for Pashtas. Yesh Lema. Thank you, I write in brackets, Yesh Lema, to me, Haloim Moti, as a Pshinus Harotzoi. Mihamoti nase hashoy. I much because we do a matter we daber food of days cook that there race samach. Here the Rebbe points out a very important Indian, which L'chora, all the way through, has somewhat, it's pronounced itself, and but once again, it's something that the Rebbe mentions it very pointedly but briefly. And that is, that we've seen all the way through, that Moti v'loi Moti, and Rotze v'shoiv are really like opposites. In other words, when we talk about the we say Rotzoi first, and then we say Shoiv. When we talk about the Moker, how it is within the Etzem, then we say Moti v'loi Moti. But they are really two opposite things. It's like a Choisem HaMesapek. You've heard the whole concept of a Choisem HaMesapek. How do you call it a seal? If you have a seal, it's got letters on it. Jam it into the wax, then the yaces are the opposite to what they are on the. That's called a chesem hamisapek, right? Therefore, on certain stamps, they're made like that. And they're meant to be jammed into a material. Then they go one way, but when it comes out of the material, it's right the other way. That's what's called a chesem, a reversing a seal. So that's exactly what we got here. At the beginning we got Moti, because by the Eibishter it's not saying that he should go up anywhere. He's not going anywhere. First of all, there has to be a going out from him. That's called Moti. And then there's a yearning and a tremendous Yislav is like a sort of brand. That's the union from Bay Lahita, and wants to go back in. So that's what he did, going back into the market. So that's when you're out there, that's the first thing. Well, that's the first thing. And then we talk about Shoy. But the Moti, that is the Shoy. Because the Moti is the going forth, and that's how the Abel wants it to go forth and to be somewhere. So by Rotze v'Shoiv, that's the second in him. That he wants it, the earth should go back down into the Keli and be there. So what we've got is that it's like a chesem hamisapek. That in the Mokeh, it's first of all Shoiv and then Rotze. That gives rise in the Makabel to Rotze v'Shoiv. Now, the reason for that is, like we pointed out, that when we're talking in the Mokeh, in the Achmi, it's not shy to say that the Achmi gets distant from the Achmi. The whole Inyan from Oili is that when it is Nimshach and it goes into a Keli, in other words, we've already been mamshach the earth into the Seder that we eventually want, which is that the earth should enter clean. Well, then this has become, as it were, a genuine, I say, as it were, but nonetheless, Begoli, that's what it is. It's already become a genuine richuk, because the kli causes it to be become even a kli, as we've seen. So therefore, it's maruchat from its shores in the etzem. And therefore, there's a tremendous desire for the old heder hamatzir, this new matzir becomes painful to the earth who wants to be in a state of heder hamatzir. Therefore, it's going back into the shores. Then we say, no, the ultimate Kavanah eventually takes over, and the Eibster sends it back again in such a way that then the oil does really want to be Mishashik. In the Shoyim, the oil wants to go out and be Mishashik with the Keli, because that's the Emetzer Kavanah. That's the Pnimis Kavanah. So by the Eibster, right from the beginning, it's not China that anything separated from what became one of the country. He reveals what is his kavanah. So he reveals that his kavanah is that somebody's going to go out from him. Not everything's just going to be him, but there's going to be, as it were, the beginning of another thing. That's called the Inyan Moti. Therefore, it has to work that way. And then there's a hiskalos, so not to go back into the checking the Inyan from Shoiv. That's only after the earth has been taught. You can't do that. You've gone down to the Keli. I understand you want to come back. Shalom Aleichem, you come back. Now somebody's got to go out again, some other oil, it's not you oil, some other oil, is going to have to go out and do the task, it's going to have to go out and become separate. So that's that kohen to go out and become separate. That's in the moti. Of the moti is really the first thing. Down there it's the second.
When the moti goes down and eventually becomes the ore from Rav V'shoy, is there still a low moti effect, or is it just kind of separate?
Yeah, we don't ask the other night. We pointed out, ain't nothing of it. What you're really asking, how did you get there in the first place? In Rav V'shoy, you got out into the Kli. And then we start talking. So, once it's down into the Kli,
Right, yeah.
it's got to get back.
No,
And we call that Rav. The question is how to get out in the Kli Melachatchila.
No, what I was asking was,
That's basically what you're implying.
maybe I didn't say it. What I'm thinking is, the moti goes down, right? It becomes the light of the Rav V'shoy. And is there still a low moti? You know what I'm saying? Or does all of that light stay down there and then nothing goes back up?
What happens is that eventually becomes a Mishlavish in the Kli.
Right.
That's why I said to you that how does it become a Mishlavish?
Right.
Because the Eibush to send it out, Melachatchila,
Right.
Kilu Bal Koche, from him.
Right.
But he doesn't want it to work that way. And that's why it's written in our place, Barichas, that the Eibush doesn't want that anything should be in the end, how do you call it, compulsory.
Mm-hmm.
That everything's got to be the rotzen of, how do you call it, the pious. The word pious means like reconciliation. Everything's got to be with the will of everything concerned. That's the way the Eibush wants it. In other words, the Eibush wants that we should do everything at the beginning with Kabbalah itself, but the end is not Kabbalah. The end has to be that all of our beings are given away to you. The rotzen, gomo. And therefore, what happens here is that the oil is sent out at the beginning, neged the earth. That's not the inning of the earth to go down into the Kli. Because even though the moti goes out a little bit, but it doesn't get down into Kli, as we pointed out. So what happens is that the Eibush sends it down into the Kli as a hemshech of the moti, but as it were like Bal Koch. We're not Barotzen and not that's a kavanah. Because the Eibush wants us to get down and then want to come back.
Right.
Only when you wanted to come back can you really understand why you've got to go down there. Because otherwise the Ohr would never understand why it does really have to go down there. Only once it's been there and it's understood what it means to be down there, then it can really want to do it. Or if you just force it to do it, that's not the kavanah.
But does the whole moti go in?
Huh?
Does the whole moti go in?
Yeah.
Or does it
Eventually
separate?
becomes, that rotzen undergoes further stages and eventually it becomes all.
Right. So no moti comes back. There is no
Yeah,
low
but the
moti.
way moti comes in, but what happens here is that the oil and the moti, the loy moti, they're functioning the whole time within the etcher. And then there's a further tzimtzum, that we'll see in a minute. There's a further tzimtzum which takes the loy moti further. But that's not a steer of the fact that ultimately there's going to be a emes shoy. The emes shoy comes only after the rotzen. There's a kavanah with it. We said that the Eibush wants that you should want to come back, and then you should want to understand why you're going to go down. And even in the earth, it's going to be kept. That's why the holiness in Toyu is not good, because in Toyu, everything just works without anybody really understanding what is ultimately the kavanah. In other words, as you get goes down, but it doesn't really quite want to go down because it can't really understand this kalim business. And when it does get into the kalim, it says, why do I want to be here? I want to go back. It's tremendous rotzei to the atzmas, and that's what it does. And so then the kalim just collapse. They drop. Why do they just drop? Because they don't have the willing cooperation of the earth, so they just drop. They left. The earth leaves them. What happens in tikkun is that's a shoy. Then the rotzei goes back in a way that it understands that it itself is going to come forth and go down, and willingly give itself away, not just Why?
Regarding the subject you mentioned earlier, regarding the Bnei Yisrael and Hashem being one.
Yes.
Yeah. So it says that the Raisa of Kutshabik
Bnei Yisrael and
Other Bnei Yisrael, yeah.
Between one, yeah.
So the Rebbe said last in the Sikha of the Bnei Yisrael Bikurim
Yeah.
that we're really one with Hashem.
Yeah, that's a mitzvah we could. Yeah.
So then the Rebbe said that the Mesa are going to reveal that in the world, Mashiach. So at the end of the day, like, is every single thing really Atzmus Malus?
Yeah. Everything is Atzmus Malus.
So what
But
happens?
on the other hand, it's not. You understand? Well, that's a big discussion. It's not, we can't cover everything. Ultimately, everything is Atzmus Malus, because it's not really shite that anything go out of him or anything go away from him, because that would anything occurs, even Moti V'Loi Moti, like we said, that's all Rishus. He allows that to happen, Kaviyot, but it doesn't really happen. So that means really everything is the ultimate truth.
So what would be like the simple difference between the Jews and the world?
The Indian of Yidden is that since they're Chelik with the Atlas, who's Golik, H.A., they have the ability to bring that into revelation. That's the Indian of Bikurim. That's what they're. All right. So it says the Imke. ויש להם הרואי מותי, נעש פינס הרוצה, ומהמותי נעש השם. In other words, it's a place of it's actually the opposite, two opposite things, like one thing which is leading this way, but when you stamp it into the makabel, it works the opposite way. ואם כן, הרי הוא שרש ומוחר לזמן על קופונים. It's a שרש ומוחר to time. גם שהרוצן הוא בחינס בלי גבול. And even though Rotzen is mamish still Elikus in a form of Bligvu. Mokim yesh boy moti v'loy moti ariu b'chinas moker l'zman al koponim. It is a mokia to the Inuit man, at least al koponim, meaning that finally, since there is a certain gilui which we call moti, then it can be in a distant way a mokia to the Inuit man, even though in that madriga it's not child's man but poem. Omnon. So that's like a pause now. So what we've decided is there's now an Indian from Rotsuin, with that Rotsuin cloud is a deliberate thing on the part of Hashem, and that gives rise to all these Giluim and the Eilamas, and they all nuance in their own way, and one connected the other, Moti, V'loi Moti, as a person of Misapit, L'kavi Roti L'Shem, etc. And eventually that leads to Mokim, is the Avish's giver, that occurs like Gul Shaboy, and Zman is this Indian, and they all derive from these different Giluim given out from the Atzmas in a way that they don't disturb his Pshitas after. Well, that's all for what you might call for the worlds. Omnom, now they start up a new Indian idea of mitzvahs, of by keeping mitzvahs, Nimsha B'chinas HaRotzen, then we have a Gila of the Rotzen, Mibchinas Atzmas Ein Sei Mamish, She'eno Shayach Shom B'chinas Iskalas V'Ispashtas Klau. In other words, at the Indian, Moti V'loi Moti gives rise to an Indian of some sort of a ha'ora mimeno, Asian Huziv, even though it's a Tzcholas Haziv, and it's Mamish Hatoya of the actions because of that, and so on and so on, but so forth, it's a form of Gilul. He said there's a Atzmus K'moshehu, that's beyond all these inyanim. So when you do a mitzvah, then you're mamshich from that madrega, that's beyond all of these inyanim of nuances. Rotzev Sheipa Matai Shaloi, and Afilo Moti V'loi Moti. Gival. So, if he's exercised, that was later. This is not Rotzen either. I mean, if we were saying that Rotzen is related, that he wants to want it, so that's a gilui. It's some sort of a gilui. So if he's saying that mitzvahs are higher than that, then what are the mitzvahs? Mahin be'emes. We have to say that there's some Indian, in a Rotzen, that it's even higher than him wanting for there to be a Rotzen. But it's kilo akesha with him mamish. And that's why the mitzvahs are only given to you. And that's how Dilla will find that he brings down a Yom Yom, that the Indian writes a Yom Yom, that the Indian of mitzvah from Russian tzavs of a chibur, from how do you call it, like a connection.
you form a connection with somebody, how do you do what you do is something that he commands you to do, then that forms a connection. The Rebbe brings out the mashal of Ish Poshut, but he has absolutely no connection with the Adam Godel cloud. He has no knowledge of he doesn't know what he's about, he doesn't understand him, he has no. Over if this great person, this great Adam Godel, will give a commandment to this person, and he does it with a bittul to the will of the Adam Godel, then they form a kesher. Then there comes between them a connection, even though it's not a seichel connection, and it's not an understanding, because he's incomparable beyond understanding the great person, etc., etc. So from that we see that the Indian of mitzvahs is will, but it's not really will either. It's higher even than being the concept of rotzen. It's the way that we form a connection with the Eibishter, in the sense that we really become shaykh to him, even though we're not be'er klal to him, klal. In other words, because we do this in the mitzvah, that it's more that the mitzvah was given to us in order to form a connection with him, more than what is it doing his will. Because his will is only a ha'ora, the motiv u'lo motiv. But the will of the mitzvahs is not so much a will, but the mitzvahs are more like this idea of the father wanting a living connection with his son. Even in this case, how are we going to have such a connection? We're way down here. So he gives us these media through which we form that connection. Therefore, we call that doing his will. But really, it's even higher than his will. It's like a connection with the father with the son. And therefore, at the end of the whole 7 days of Sukkot, they said, "No, I just want to be together with my Yitzhak," because they do these things not with the form with me a connection that I can't have with anything else. It's only with them that such a connection exists, and that's the greatness of the day of Sukkot. That's like an amazing open announcement of that connection. But everyone's supposed to don't learn, you don't do anything. Yeah, you don't do anything seichel thinking. It's all pretty, sort of, how do they call it, wild and woolly.
Sure it is. Especially in context.
I mean, I don't mean that everybody's just come shikar and shukar, but even if you're not shikar and shukar on Sukkot stuff, really you're so busy with all our coffers and all the dancing and all the there's no real any Masuda to get. That's a kesher. That's the etzem kesher of the mitzvahs with the kindle. That's the Indian of mitzvahs. It comes out that mitzvahs are not tzimtzumim, they're not developments, they're not giving down into a whole series of principles and things. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Whether there was an entire box on their head or something, throw it in a way. It doesn't make any sense. And that's the connection. That's with that. We make the kesher with him beyond all of the Now he brings down a Tanya that we really should have learned it, but it's a bit of a, how do you call it, a cup breaker. Come I discuss it, you'll penetrate my malev, the yuk, which will bring you shkintei, shenaseh down mitzvah, zeh will tzveini ho amiti. Not tzveini ho amiti. What is that? ובהגוע שם שזה נהיה פוחרס, הגבולים בקסודים, דעתיק יוימן. שזה נהיה פלייסר חיברתי דאריך אנפין. שהם כנס קסודים דאריך יוימן. But that's not written over there. It's not written. The pleiser חיברתי דאריך, they are Atik Yom, the state history. So we'll have to break our heads to understand what is it all about. What is it all about. But that's the Mishnah Siddim. The Mishnah Siddim, he was a very great Makubo. He was actually from the Talmudim of the Rizal. And they say he's one of the few Yidden in history that all his life, at least a large part of it, he kept all the commandments written in there. in the Kisvei Arizal that you're supposed to be Mechaber when you do everything. Kept all the come on. He's quite an amazing guy. But the most amazing thing is that Chassidus brings him all over, quotes him all over. At one point where the Alter Rebbe really did it with him very heavily. That's very amazing. He's quoted tremendously and everything. There's one point where the Alter Rebbe couldn't agree with him. Anyway, I don't want to hold you guys up.
So what's the point?
He held that the Tzimtzum was computer. Now, whatever counts, so, amazing. He didn't write it in the Mission City, he wrote another book. Rabbeinu Emmanuel Chayriki. So he writes this, that's his way of saying it. And, the Alter Rebbe touches him out in a very artistic way. So it's amazing. It just shows the greatness of the Alter Rebbe. You know, if he realized the unbelievable greatness of this man, and everything quotes him all over. In Lahara, over, there's a point where it doesn't add up with what we have a Kabbalah. And even the greatest Kabbalah might be Kisvei Arizal. You have to disagree with him. It's really amazing. Big stuff. Okay, guys.